On this episode of Scammer Stories, the daughter of a romance scam victim ends up in dire shape after her mother was scammed while battling lung cancer. Renee is in trouble. Diagnosed with a debilitating disease as a child and then multiple serious health setbacks as an adult, she depended on her mother a lot for her day-to-day care. Renee had a good mother for most of her life, but her decisions at the end of her life were detrimental to Renee, who is now dependent on a caregiver she cannot afford and a home equipped with her handicapped needs that she's about to lose. I'll tell you how we can all band together and help out, even just a little bit in just a moment. Before we start today, Renee was embarrassed about all of the details she's about to share for a while, and then came to the conclusion that she has no other choice but to tell her story. We're going to start a few years back with a medical issue that set her back.
Right before Christmas of 2019, I had tripped and fallen and split my head open. Had to get my head stapled shut. Then, of course, we all know what happened in 2020 with COVID. And I ended up, from the head wound, I got septic. The doctor that stapled me shut didn't clean it. And I think I had told you this. I was born with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So I had already had both hips replaced, a knee replacement, ankle fusions, and the infection just settled into my artificial knee and went from there. So I spent 3 months in the hospital and rehabilitation.
3 months. Wow. I was in ICU for brain surgery, and that was only 2 weeks. So you were in there for 3 months.
3 months, and almost died twice.
Oh my goodness.
Once from the sepsis, and then my esophagus ruptured.
Ouch. You have seen some pain in your life.
Yeah. So I guess during that time, my mom was in the hospital with me as much as they'd let her because of COVID. And she wasn't allowed to come to the rehabilitation center at all. So I was there by myself. And I guess she just got bored. And she got on different, like Christian Mingle and different websites. Just, I don't know if she was looking just for someone to talk to, but this man shows up. I actually think he contacted her through Facebook. She was smart, but when it came to technology, she didn't always understand it. And so if she got a friend request, she just automatically accepted it. So she starts talking to this guy. His name was William. The picture that he sent her, I knew when I saw the picture it wasn't real. It was obviously just like a model photo. But he knew all the right things to say to her. And she had told him all about, what I was dealing with. And she was having to take care of me. And so Dad, I think, gave him his opening. He started out telling her he worked for a company called D Gold Corp. He went so far as to send her a link to a website that he had set up. And it looked like a real website. So she sent it to me, and I start looking at it. Well, when I start looking at the list of employees, I knew it was fake because 2 of the employees were Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi.
Which are athletes, right?
Yeah, they're professional soccer players. I told her this. She kind of hesitated. When she said something to him, his answer is, "Oh, they work for us in the off season."
I've been through these crazy stories with my mom's scam. What was your reaction? What were you thinking when she told you that these professional soccer players were the employees of the man she was talking to?
I told her she was nuts.
Yeah.
That these people they make millions of dollars in endorsements and appearances. They don't need to work in the off season.
Just like my mother, Renee's mom was widowed and isolated.
My dad had passed away in 2017, and then, the pandemic and having to take care of me. I think she was just looking for an outlet, is all I can come up with.
And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. Much worse.
Well, in the midst of all of this, she gets diagnosed with lung cancer. So, yeah, we couldn't win for losing. So that, I think, gave him another opening. Oh, as soon as I get this last job taken care of, I'll come and take care of both of you. And that just kind of, in her mind, sealed the deal.
Because she wanted it so badly.
Yeah. So he tells her that this last job is in London and he'll be there a couple of weeks, but not to worry if she doesn't hear from him because internet in London is spotty. And I just looked at her and was like, no, it's not. They're a civilized country. It's not spotty, but whatever. So after a couple of weeks, he gets back in touch with her and tells her that the deal had fallen through. And because of his level of employment in the company, he has to pay his own way back to the United States. And then the company will reimburse him. Okay, that could happen, maybe. But then he tells her that he can't access any money out of his bank account because a few years earlier, his business partner had cheated him out of money. And so the bank froze his account. And the only way he can get money is to show up to the bank in person. And I just looked at her and said, that's not true. But my mother was also very stubborn. She believed something. You could not convince her otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this is going on, and I'm like finding old Dr. Phil episodes that he's done of elderly women that have been scammed and forcing her to watch them.
Yep, same here. My mom never changed her mind either. She watched those episodes. She would say, oh, those poor women. Oh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I got that too. So he tells her that if she can send him the money to check out of his hotel and for a plane ticket back home, that when he gets back to Houston, he'll go to the bank, get the money, and send it to her.
Renee's mother thinks the story is believable and sets the rest of the nightmare into motion.
Oh, she's fine with that. She believes it. So in the midst of that conversation, I think she says something about, because she had to have surgery to remove part of her lung. And he says that he's got enough money in the bank that when he reimburses her for the hotel and the plane ticket, he'll send $300,000. And that'll be enough money to take care of her and me. In her mind, whatever happens to me, if there's this money, I don't have to worry about Renee.
Which is a loving thought. I mean,
yeah, I told her she was crazy.
I mean, but she wasn't a bad mother, right?
No,
yeah.
This woman gave up everything for me. She was there through every surgery, every rehabilitation, everything. So she goes to the bank and she gets, I want to say like $3,000 or $4,000 and sends it. This is all money orders.
I find it interesting that no one at the bank said anything.
So she sends him the money and he tells her he's on his way to the airport. He's checked out of the hotel. Then he tells her that on the way to the airport, the taxi got held up and he and the taxi driver got shot and they stole all his money. So he's in the hospital.
Yeah, that would have been on the news.
That's what I told her.
All of this happened with just a simple picture. Like all of the scammers, he always had an excuse for an unclear FaceTime call.
Because either the connection's bad or he has to lay the phone down or there's some excuse as to why she can't see his face. So he's in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, gets back in touch with her and says that they're ready to discharge him, but he has to pay his bill before they'll let him leave. And I just looked at her and I said, no hospital works like that. They'll let him leave and then send him a bill. Or there's this thing called insurance.
Well, you know hospitals. She knows hospitals. You guys have been there a ton.
Yeah. I mean, so in the meantime, she's had her surgery and she had to go stay in a rehab place. She wants me, who I am now, because of the sepsis and everything, I use either a walker or a wheelchair. I can't drive. She wants me to go to the bank and get money out of her account and then go to the post office and send these money orders. I told her she was crazy, that I wasn't doing it, thinking, okay, maybe if I tell her I'm not doing it, this will be the end of it. Oh no. As soon as she got released from the rehab place, she goes to the bank, gets more money, and off to the post office she goes. That time, I think she sent 10,000, I think. She quit telling me about it. So he gets the money. He's leaving the hospital. He's on his way to the airport. He's going to come here. He gets his ticket. He gives her a flight number, everything. The woman goes to the airport and sits for 7 hours.
Oh, I hate these stories. That's heartbreaking.
I guess all this time she's trying to get in touch with him. He finally sends her a text and says that the flight got canceled because of weather. First of all, if the weather was that bad in London that they were canceling flights, that would have been on the news.
Yes, that makes news because that airport is so busy.
Yeah. And secondly, I Googled like the weather in London. I told her, I said, Mom, it's perfectly sunny in London.
Oh.
So she comes home from the airport. A few weeks later, he tells her he's ready to, he's going to try again, but he needs more money. I didn't want any part of this. If she mentioned his name, I just changed the subject because I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah, that's how I got to that point too.
And then she tells me that his cousin has gotten in touch with her and she's going to help get him the money. So all my mom has to do is send the cousin the money. And I'm like, no, just don't. She did anyway. I don't know how much she ended up sending. After she passed away, I found receipts for 18,000. But I know it was more than that because I'm an only child, so having to deal with all of her bills and everything, accounts that were supposed to have money in them didn't.
So go back to her passing. What happened?
She had the surgery to remove part of the lung and had chemo. Everything was going great. She had the surgery in March of 22. She would have scans about every 6 weeks. Everything was great. We knew the type of lung cancer she had. If it spread, it tended to spread to the brain first. So she had regular brain scans. Things were going really well. She was doing great. And then October of 22, because she had to come over every morning, help me get ready for the day. And then she would have to come back and fix me dinner and help me get ready for bed. She came back that night and she just wasn't herself, like just doing weird things. And we're eating supper and she has a seizure.
I asked Renee to elaborate on the weird behavior. So if you're listening, you can be aware if this happens to one of your loved ones.
We had had a text chain between her and her sister-in-law and me. And some of her texts they didn't make sense. And I commented on it. And she said, oh, well, my phone does weird things. Okay, well, that's true. So when she came back that night to fix dinner, we were going to have beef stew. And I heard her get the pot out, put it in the pot to heat it. Well, then she brings me a bowl of it and it's ice cold. And I said, Mom, this is cold. And she said, well, I heated it. And I said, yeah, like 30 seconds ago. And she said, oh, well, I thought it was longer than that. So she takes the bowl, dumps it back in the pot, heats it. So we're sitting there eating, and I'm telling her a story about something that had happened. And the story's funny, but I'm getting no reaction at all. And then she just gets this kind of odd look on her face, like a half smile. And that's when the seizure started. So I called 911, and when they got her to the hospital and they did a CAT scan, they found 3 lesions on her brain. Now, 6 weeks before this, she had a clear brain scan. That's how fast this spread. So she stayed in the hospital a couple of weeks. The only way they would let her come home is if she came home to my house. So there would be at least somebody there. She ended up coming home right the week before Thanksgiving, and she passed in January of 23. So she didn't last long. And in my mind, he was part of the reason, because the whole time she was in the hospital after the seizures, she would say, well, I tried to call William, but he didn't answer. And I'm like, because he doesn't exist. You quit sending money, or you weren't able to talk to him. So he moved on to somebody else. So then, like I said, after she passed, I'm going through, because I knew there were stock accounts, there were annuities, there were things that should have had plenty of money in them. And they were every one empty.
Now, talk about, you said that you think that he kind of led to her death, but go in more detail on that, how you think that worked. I mean, her heart was broken, obviously, but there was something else that happened.
I think she just gave up, because from when she had the original surgery until she had the seizure in October, so that was from March to October, she did great because she was still talking to him. And I think after that, after she had the seizure and wasn't able to talk to him, couldn't get hold of him, I think she just gave up and thought, well, I've messed this up. I've messed everything up. I'm just done. Because this was a woman who, if she had to take medicine, she knew, she took it on a schedule. And when she came to my house right before Thanksgiving, like, I had to take over giving her medicine, because she just didn't care if she took it or not.
So then she passes, you're going through all of her finances, and you figure out there's nothing.
Nothing. Nope.
And that means your life is directly impacted.
Impacted, yes.
Tell me the thoughts that were going through your mind when you figured out there is no money.
My first thought is, I'm going to end up in a nursing home. That was my first thought, because I taught school for 23 years. I worked hard to be as independent as I was, because the doctor that diagnosed me when I was 8, told my parents that I would never graduate high school. I'd never go to college. I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 16. Not only did I graduate high school, I got 3 college degrees, and I taught school for 23 years.
So, you showed them. I love it.
And my house, I've worked hard to make it adaptable to me, because a lot of people, oh, well, I need a smaller house. They can sell what they're living in and just go find something. I can't do that. I can't have a house with steps. I can't have, cabinets that are too high up on the wall, so I've had to work to make my house adaptable. And my first thought was, I'm going to have to sell this and like literally go into a nursing home. In Tennessee, that it doesn't work that way. They have what's called a 5-year rule. And if you all of a sudden apply for Medicaid to be able to afford being in a nursing home, they go back 5 years and look at your finances because people have been like hiding money and giving it to relatives to make themselves look poor.
Yes, a lot. That happens a lot.
And so that's not an option. And then the only other option, there's a program we have called Choices. And basically, the state takes you to court and declares you incompetent. And they take your money, put it in a trust, dole it out to you if and when you need it. And then they bring in their people to take care of you. And when you pass, they sell everything and they keep the money. Those were my options.
That
thanks to my
sounds
mother.
horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah.
So I talked to you about how angry I am still at my mother, and I can't even imagine how angry you still have to be at your mother.
I am. It's every day when when I have to say, okay, do I pay my caregiver or do I pay this? And in my caregiver, she's fantastic. I do not want to ever lose her. But we've had to work it out to where she can't work every day. There's days that I don't have any help because I can't afford it.
And so someone set up a GoFundMe for you, right? Or how did
Yes.
that? Who did
A friend
that?
of mine, it's a mutual friend of mine and my caregivers. We were just, and I haven't told a lot of people this story because it's kind of embarrassing.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of came out, that this had happened. And this is why that my caregiver wasn't working every day. And so next thing I knew, this girl had set up a GoFundMe. At first I was embarrassed, but then I'm like, you know what? You can't be embarrassed. You've got to do something. It's been kind of slow. So I'm hoping that it'll pick up because I'm trying to get it out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be embarrassed. This is your quality of life depends on this,
Yeah.
And no one's going to say, oh, she's just greedy. She set up that GoFundMe because she just wants the money. I mean, come on.
No, I mean, the people that have donated have mostly been my friends from high school. And they've known, me, since I was little. And so they've known everything I've been through. But it's sad when, your options are a nursing home, a state program, or just being by yourself.
Now, what about other family members? I think I asked you this before, but what about other family members? You have a small family, right?
I've got a very small family who I don't want to say they didn't like my mother, but they just didn't get along.
They weren't close.
No.
Okay.
And I've got one aunt, my dad's sister, that'll still come around and help when she can. But her daughter, my cousin, has stage 4 breast cancer and has got 2 young kids. So a lot of her time is spent, with that, which is understandable. So I'm kind of just left on my own a lot, which, when my caregiver's here, if we know that like the next day she's not going to be able to be here, we kind of plan ahead so that I can get stuff to drink and stuff to eat. And, I can manage a day, but after that, you kind of have to take a shower because you start to stink and, so.
Has there ever been a point when your caregiver wasn't there that you really, really, really needed something?
Yes, we had, let's see, January of 24, we had probably 7 inches of snow that they didn't predict. And she wasn't able to no one was able to get here for 3 days.
Oh, no. What'd you do?
So fortunately, I had enough like little individual cans of Chef Boyardee and things like that I could get to, and bottles of tea that I was able to reach. So I was okay, but it wasn't great.
Now, when you say you were able to reach, you mean like low enough in the pantry, or is this something that you have like on your nightstand? Or
I've got different foods stashed in places that I can access very easily. So you open random drawers in my house and there might be a can of SpaghettiOs in there. And I've always been independent. I worked really hard at being independent. And this has just been, it came out of the blue, and then not having the money. It's been a rough couple of years.
To put it lightly. And I'm sure you never, ever imagined that this would happen after all of your hard work. I mean, there are days still that I'm like, did that really happen to my mother? How bizarre. And you've really got to feel that way.
Oh, I do, because, and I keep telling myself that I know deep down she thought she was doing the right thing for me. Then I think, but if she had just listened to me, she really would have been doing the right thing.
I know. I go back and forth from feeling sorry for her to being angry at her. Switch could flip so fast.
Yeah, it does. And I can go for weeks and not think about it, and then I'll get something in the mail that is like, oh, good Lord, here's another thing that I've got to deal with. And I found out after the fact that she did not pay her taxes.
Uh-oh. So what does that mean for you?
Oh, I got stuck with having to pay them.
Oh, no.
And my income I get, when I left teaching, I was able to get Social Security disability and my pension. That's it.
How much are the taxes?
1 year was over 1,000. It was like 1,200 and something, and 1 year was 800 and something.
Not money that you want to be spending right now at all.
No. And I can't even, I'm grateful for Social Security disability, but they have one rule that I do not agree with. And that is, if you are on disability, you can't work.
Yeah, that has been a problem. I know I've got several of my friends have autistic adult children, and they're going through the same thing.
Because there is not a thing in the world wrong with my brain. I could do anything, computer, I could sit here and do medical coding or, anything all day long. The only thing broken about me is my body. But I can't. And if I do, I lose my disability. And I'm to the point now that I'm honestly afraid that I'm going to end up having to file bankruptcy and risk losing my house.
Now, after I stopped recording, Renee and I chatted a little bit more about her health. She says doctors basically gave her two choices: be bedridden for the rest of her life, or take 3,000 milligrams of antibiotics per day and deal with the consequences of pain and the sores on her legs. That's the option she chose. There are so many different avenues to Renee's story that she could be on dozens of podcasts to get the word out for help. Here's how listeners of this podcast can help. A GoFundMe has been set up to help Renee to try and save her house and to help pay for some of the help in her home. Even if you just donate a few dollars, it would mean a lot to her. I've already donated. You never know when you might be in a desperate situation and might need the same kindness. Until next time, Scammer Warriors. Oh, and make sure you keep the emails coming. It's scammerstoriespodcast@gmail.com.